what was it like to live in a household with 20 other kids? I mean, first of all, there's so many questions, but let's start with that one.
Well, you come from a family of two. So I come from a family of 21. So let me say this. It was chaotic in the Hunter family house. But my mother, she ran it like we were in the military. We had to get up at 5:30 in the morning. We had to get prepared for school. And my older siblings played an instrumental role in making sure that we get up on time, that making sure that we were able to eat in the morning time and walk us to the bus stop. So that way we get on the bus, and my older siblings had to basically try to run and get to school themselves. So if it wasn't for my older siblings and my parents, I wouldn't be here today. But I can tell you on Wednesday night, my mom will always get us together and we will have Bible study on Wednesday night. It was choir practice. We had our little band. I used to play the bongos. My brother was on the drum. My other brother was on the guitar. One was on the bass. And we had like a band like the Temptation. Sunday was very special for my mother and my father because they would get us up and go to church. So we were like basically like the Brady Bunch family. The only difference is a lot of children, and we had two big, huge station wagons, and we had a van. So on Sunday, those two station wagons was filled to capacity because we had to get to church at 10:30, and then by 12 we were at home, and sometime the pastor would come over and have dinner with us, watch the Green Bay Packers football team on Sunday. So it was fun growing up in a big, huge family, and I do not, let me say this again, I do not regret it.
I could picture when we had a third kid, my wife and I, we upgraded to a minivan, and that was a big conversation, right? Because we're so that used to those. I was gonna ask, how the heck did you guys get around, and how long did it take everyone to get into the cars? Like, get in the car, kids, let's go, we're late. I can imagine in your home how long that actually took. How did your mom manage that?
Well, I tell you what, it was my dad. It's time to go to church. Everybody will take off running, getting in that car. We're very quiet in the car because Dad's voice put a fear on the inside of us, and we knew he was about business.
I
So
like
we
that.
got in that car, we got organized, and we didn't say a word.
I like that. I respect that a lot. Did he also play a big role in being there as you guys grew up, or because obviously 21 kids to provide food for, to water, food, clothing? I mean, my God, the list goes on and on. Was he a big part in the everyday, or was he more of a working man that made sure food was kind of on the table?
My dad was a working man. My dad worked two jobs. One job that he had worked for was case manufactory. He did that first shift. Second shift, he was at Bell City. So my mom worked part time. So my dad provided for us. He was a great provider. My mom was a great provider as well. But on the weekends, Dad was at home with the family having fun. There was many times that he had us outside playing kickball, had
Yeah.
us outside playing volleyball against each other. So you got to look at, we had our own basketball team, we had our own football team, we had our own soccer team, but Dad made sure that the team was even Steven.
You
He
guys
made
could have
sure.
had a 5-on-5 basketball tournament just within the family. I mean, for sure, a big three tournament. You know what I mean? And it's incredible. So, but Dad was there. He spent time on the weekend, made sure he gave time back, provided for his family, and it sounds like you guys were kept very active. That was a big part of your growing up.
Yes, if you look at today's society, and that's what I do because I have four children in my on my own. But we were always outside,
Yeah.
and we knew that when that street light came on, we had to immediately get into the house. And today you don't see a lot of kids outside. And that's the reason why a lot of kids today, they don't know how to interact with people because they don't have people skills at all.
Absolutely agree with you. It's almost they're kind of glued to that phone.
Yes.
People call it a cell phone, like a jail cell phone. They cannot get away from it. I've I've been guilty of looking at it versus reading at night as well. I can't say it's just a kid thing, right? But overall, you're right. The social skills developed, I think, when you grew up. Even when I grew up, I'm 40 years old. I'm not, I would say, a millennial, right? It's completely different. I mean, when I grew up, we didn't have phones. You didn't have phones. So I was outside playing basketball, kicking the ball around, just throwing the tennis ball as far as I could. Nowadays, kids are the opposite. Let me ask you, getting back to how you grew up with your siblings, was there advantages or disadvantages? Like, were you ever overshadowed being the 19th of 21 kids? What were some of the positives and maybe negatives of having so many siblings?
Well, when you have a lot of children, especially having 21 children, a lot of my brothers and sisters, they feel that mom was giving too much love to this sibling versus me, and they felt like that. But it's they had to understand that my mother and my father was not perfect. It is hard. It really is hard when you have a big family, you trying to provide for them and you trying to disperse love and caring. Well, it's hard to balance all of that out. But I believe that my mother and my father was fair with all of us, despite the difficult times, despite the arguments, the fights in the homes between siblings. You
Yeah,
understand?
I can imagine. There was
But
so many. How did you guys manage the bathroom situation? That's like a who showered first? Was there an order or what?
yeah, but you know what? I have to tell this story because it's amazing. My mother was pregnant with the 14th child,
Okay.
and my parents were living in a two-bedroom home at that particular time. One
Wow.
day, the sheriff officer came knocking at the door, told my mom and dad there was too many people living there, so they had 72 hours to vacate.
Wow. They could
So
do
my
that? The sheriff could.
Yes. Yep. In the city of Racine.
Wow.
So my mom and dad went to church, talked to the pastor, they prayed. The next day, a miracle happened. A man came knocking at the door. He wanted to speak to my dad and my mom, which he did. He told them, I have a home and I want to take you and your husband to go see it. Mom and dad got in the car with this stranger. The man took them to 617 Randolph Street. Once they got there, they looked at the house on the outside, and the man said, "This house is yours." Took them inside and discovered that it was an 18-bedroom house. So my mom and dad was blessed with that home.
God bless that man
And
too.
the man only told my mom and dad, this home is for sale. I'm going to give it to you for $1. My
Wow.
mom and dad did not have $1. So the man went into his wallet and gave my mom that $1 to purchase that home. That home was a blessing for us. That home had 18 bedrooms. Also, it had an attic in the basement. So my older brother, he had the basement.
Not lucky him. Wow,
Lucky
that's
him.
that's an incredible gesture from a stranger. I mean, that goes a long way. I think that was he part of the church? Was he part of
He was part of another church, but word had spread that
Yeah.
we were about to get
Evicted,
um, evicted.
which would have broke you guys all up. I mean, the
Yes,
social
yes, yes.
services would have came in and made your parents look unloving, uncaring, or whatever it is, and would have broken you guys up. And I don't think that's fair at all, to be honest with you.
No,
Um,
no.
I don't think they have any right to say that who's loved in which home, unless especially from what it sounds like, your parents were supportive. They wanted, they loved. You know what I mean? They weren't abusive in that regard to some of these other families that may have a lot of siblings or maybe out there where the parents don't have the best interest, right? Your parents had the best interest in your development and in your upbringing, I would imagine.
Yes, 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 they did. And that's the reason why I have to continue to emphasize that if it wasn't for my mother and also my dad, I wouldn't be here today having this conversation with you.